have fun. So, wrapping down the monoliths, before we start, let me talk a bit about Pipedrive in general. That's the company where you are at the moment. So our product is a sales CRM. It was founded in 2010 by 5 Estonians. We currently have over 100,000 clients, 800 plus employees, and those are 50 plus nationalities. We have 10 offices in 8 countries. You can see that on the map. And we are proud to be a unicorn since 2020. Pipedrive Prague, our office, was opened 6 years ago. I think I've already seen a person who was opening it here, Tomáš, somewhere. It was 15th, 2018. Currently, we have around 40 team members, and we have various disciplines here. So you can find folks from software development, support engineering, product management, product design, UX. Our speakers this evening will be our own Martin Seidel. Then we're going to have Alexands Kára from Outreach, and then we're going to have Michal Hribek from Czech TV. We will do the first 2 speakers. It's going to be approximately 40 minutes block. Then we're going to have a break, and then we are going to continue and close it with Michal. After each block, there will be a Q&A session. So feel free to raise your questions on our Slido. So you can ask whatever is going to be interesting for you. And we're going to start with Martin, who's going to talk about breaking from C to manageable services. One recommendation from Martin: he recently seen the movie Gentleman from Guy Ritchie, and he really recommends that.
All right. Hello, I'm Martin. I would like to talk about our monolith, how we try to slim it down, and how we are making manageable services out of the functionality that we have placed there. I'm with Pipedrive already 5 years. I'm working for a Gears tribe or team. It's basically a tribe that is dealing with a product platform. For those who don't know, it's basically about preparing some platform for other tribes that are dealing with the product development. So we got some filtering possibilities in the product. We got some change logs. We have custom fields and so on. So that's what we are preparing for them, and they are extending the functionality if they want, or they just simply use it. I like refactoring, I like clean code. So whenever I see something bad in the code, I'm trying to improve it. And I'm also playing football. That's what I do when I'm not working. So let's first talk about current state of the services in Pipedrive. So we had one monolith a long time ago, but since then we managed to create up to, I don't know, 700 services, where 150 are front-end services. They are running in six regions, and they are maintained in about 200 developers. Those services, obviously, they have been created to either like replace the functionality of the monolith or extend the functionality. And why we moved out of the monolith, I think it's quite simple. Basically, the main motivation is to keep those services as simple as possible. Basically in ownership of specific teams. So when you develop something, the work you do doesn't conflict with somebody else. let's talk about our monolith in about let's go to the history in about 2 years ago. So it's a PHP app. At that time, I think it was running this PHP version 5.6. It's using custom framework. It's very ugly code. It also has been serving some views, like web views, rendering basically pages. The code is not typed. It uses very low amount of classes. There are some weird hacks, like when you send query parameter to the API, it returns completely different response than when you don't send the parameter. So some weird hacks, methods that contain, I don't know, 8 parameters and so on. Basically, ugly stuff you don't want to see it basically. And there is very random access to different parts of the code in there. So there is no standard interface. It's hard to basically change something there. It's working, but as in every company, there is need for changes from product people who always see the golden castles, and they would like to develop the best functionalities possible. And so because of those complications, or how to call it, the development velocity is not the best. Basically, it's hard to deploy something somewhere in the monolith, because you need to ask other teams to give you approval for that. You need to run a big set of tests that take, let's say, 20 minutes to run. So if you want to quickly develop something, then it's pretty hard to do it. So we started, or basically we had a look at the code and the functionality that we wanted to extend, and we made some analysis and started creating new service. And that's basically the simplest part, I would say. You just look at the code and try to refactor it. I recommend to start with the monolith and create some kind of interface in there. Simply clean up the code a little bit. You will understand better the logic, how it works. You can document it. You try to make some kind of client and some decision logic basically for the migration. So you can incrementally migrate customers from the monolith to the new service. But that's not all. We had the benefit of existence of some kind of API tests. Those API tests, in our case, they run in some kind of sandbox environment where most of the services, or basically a bunch of services, are running. So there are no mocks. So you can verify that if you have some API, it returns exactly the same stuff as it was returning before, which was really beneficial when we tried to change something. So that's the first step, creating new service. But then we also have database, right? And the database needs to be migrated as well. But it's difficult. First, because when you are creating new service, you can be quite sure that you will introduce some bugs and you will overlook something. So our approach is to basically give access to the new service to the database, to the same database as was used before. But I know it's not the best, and in the books you will read like you never do that because somebody will access your data and change it and so on. Yes, that's true, but it's much simpler approach, and you will avoid like so many problems. I once experienced migration when we created service, created new API, created new database, and the migration took like, I don't know, 9 months to execute because we had to deal with so many issues and so many edge cases that it was simply really hard to migrate. But yes, that's the second approach. You have new database and you basically have some migration script that first take the data from the original database and move it to the new one. My recommendation is also to validate the data before you write it to the new database, because if you have service that is running, let's say 10 years and writing something to the database and you have a lot of rows, you can be quite sure that there is something really weird. So validate the data first. Okay, and then there is internal and public API that you have to deal with. So when you migrate all the data and you switch the traffic to the new service, that's basically the stage one. In our case, we have this API gateway and some internal customers, and all the traffic goes through the PHP monolith or our monolith. In second phase or second stage, we basically, because we have access to those internal consumers, so we create tasks for the teams, or we do it on our own and migrate all the traffic directly to the new service. And the third stage is to take the public traffic and redirect it to the new service. Why we do that is that our monolith, it's PHP, and those new services, they are written in Node.js and with Fastify, and it handles those requests slightly differently, basically, because the PHP monolith, it has a custom routing system, and it doesn't really like respect all the HTTP standards. For example, if you send post request with the empty body, PHP monolith accepts that, new service doesn't. It simply throws an error because it's a problem. It doesn't comply with the standard. So that's about the internal and public API. And yes, the migration and stuff, it's when you finish it, you can be happy that you did it. You created new service. It somehow works, but this is just the start, because there will be bugs, as I said. There will be missed functionality that you overlooked in the old code. But then there is a cherry on top to delete all the migrated code from the original service. So you create PR that has, like, let's say 10,000 lines deleted. That's the cherry on top. One maybe interesting finding that we had, we also found that our newly created service that we tried to optimize as much as we could, it was basically performing worse than the original monolith. Basically, even though it has been doing all the ugly stuff and wasn't optimal code, it still was faster than the new stuff. And then I don't know how much familiar are you with the Node.js and async hooks, but we had some functionality wrapped around the async hooks, and basically when we removed those async hooks, it all has gone much better. and we also played with some parameters of the memory assignment in Node.js and stuff like that, which was really like interesting stuff to do. So that is it. Yes, and I think this is the last one. Our monolith. I think it goes nowhere. Basically, it will stay with us forever. The service gets some proper love from developers. It's running the latest PHP. It's in much better shape. Basically, we are developing completely new API there. There are no longer those web views created. The code is much more organized, and basically what we are trying to do currently is to get rid of all the unnecessary stuff and keep only the core entities that we have there, like deals, contacts, activities, and so on. And they can stay there, and the rest of the stuff will be probably gone and taken out. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Martin, for sharing your experience. Now let's proceed with the Q&A. Can we take questions from the audience if needed? Cool. So guys, if you haven't managed to post and you would like to ask live, it's also perfectly fine. So Martin, first question, it's from me, surprise, surprise. If you should pick one thing from your experience with cutting the monolith, what was the most difficult or complex or crazy stuff?
I think it was probably that like tackling this performance degradation when we move it to the new service. Also, what I mentioned, to do all those stuffs all together, like take the service, move it to the different storage, and also create new API. If I would do it again, I would do it like separately in like separate stages.
Thank you. Then we have another question from Lukáš. Can you share a bit more about the API tests and how they work?
Yeah, as I said, they basically our DevOps tooling team, they created this. It's called test box, and you are able to spawn every service of the Pipedrive in there, which runs basically in some kind of sandbox environment. So it creates you completely new database, spawns all the services, create entities like you would create over the API, and you can basically call public or private API in there and test whatever you want.
Cool. Thank you. Question from Peter. How do you decide which part of the monolith you should convert to a microservice, and what should be part of it and what not?
I think it's pretty simple. It's usually based on product requirements. When there is some need for extension of some functionality, and we see that the code is in pretty bad shape, we just create some kind of domain and move it away. So, for example, lastly, I think we cut out some filters. And filters consist of like filter management, which means those CRUD operations about filters, like creating, updating, reading, and so on. But then you have reading data, which is like composing of the queries to the database and getting data from the database. And we just cut out the filter management. So all the operations about modifying filters is in separate service, and the filtering itself, it remained in the monolith.
Alrighty, thank you. Question from Mirka. Say we have an app which consists of many microservices. They all have the same base, like language, framework, basic settings, etc. Now, if we change one little thing, we have to change it in every repository, commit, push. It's time consuming and not fun. What is the correct approach here?
If I understand the question, then it's probably about upgrading some library or something. Then I would use some kind of microplane, or how is it called, some script that basically do it automatically in all the repositories. I can hardly imagine an action that would affect like all the services.
Would Jirka like to clarify or ask some follow-up question regarding this one? No? Alrighty. Question from Mert. After all this work, why is it not possible to get rid of the monolith altogether?
It's hard to answer. I don't know. For the team where I'm working, it's one of the motivations is also get rid of PHP, because we don't have that much experience with PHP, and people don't want to work with the big service. So they like to extract things out. But for some teams, they are probably happy with the state of the monolith, and they don't mind that much, or they just don't want to do that because they think it's too difficult. So that's probably it.
I see. Thank you. A question from Vyacheslav. Sorry if I pronounce it wrong. How did you persuade the company owners to do such a big change, or they persuaded you?
We basically have some kind of technical depth capacity that we can basically use for this kind of projects, or we call it missions. And basically, if we have good product manager that helps us with that. So if we tell him that this is not possible, or it would be better, like if you give us a month, we will basically take it out of the PHP, and then you can come out with whatever request you want. Then it's quite convincing.
Nice. Good tactic. Question from Petr. You mentioned validation of data during database migration. How are you dealing with missing incorrect values?
I think it really depends on the data. First, you need to analyze like what is missing, like whether you can replace that those values somehow, or whether you can live without them. But simply you just have to usually fill it in. So based on the data, it doesn't have like simple answer, I would say.
Thank you. Question from Pipedrive. Maybe some competitor. Well, the front-end services, is it just 150 deployments?
I'm not front-end developer, but recently there have been some changes, and I think it works in a way that you have basically defined a microservice. It's a separate repository, and you basically deploy it as same way as you deploy basically services, but it just creates this web package and uploads that to the CDN, and then it's loaded like asynchronously in the web app. Is that correct, Miguel?
Is Miguel nodding?
Yes, he's nodding.
Okay, good. Question from Hamza. Did you hear about the pizza size team? One service per team of 5 to 7 people.
No, I didn't, and it wouldn't work for us.
Okay. And for one more, Petr, did cutting the results in a change outside development, like project management, release process?
I wouldn't say so. Maybe it made the development and deployment faster, because usually tests are executed much faster. We are able to cover the functionality better. It's like isolated domain, so I would say it positively affects the development and deployments.
All right. And a wrap-up question from me, because all those people came here for this Cutting the Monolith meetup. What would be something you would highlight? What would you give them as like the biggest lesson learned the hard way, or advice, something? What do you think it's like important?
Probably be brave and try to do it.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Martin. And I invite Alexander from Outreach to talk about decomposing the monolith. Recommendation from Alexander, what to see, guys. It's Children of Men, Alfonso Cuarón. Thank you.
Welcome. Like, first I need to find out how to do it. So welcome. I'm Alex. I'm from Outreach, from the search team, and I will share like our experience decomposing the monolith. I was surprised to hear that like we definitely have some commonalities, although the monolith was like built on a different technology. So first I'll like before starting, I'll talk a little bit about like where I work. I work on a search team. I've been at Outreach for a bit over 4 years, and recently we have been cutting our monolith with what's written or is written in Ruby on Rails. And the fun fact is, it's not the first cutting of the monolith that I was part of. Before joining Outreach, is like 2017 to 19. I worked on cutting a different monolith at YouTube. It was a Python monolith this time, but also like moving to microservices. First, let me introduce, like before starting the most of it, let me introduce what the search team does, because it will be important for the rest of the presentation. So the team suggests we handle searching, which is true, but that's not the only thing which we do. We are powering almost all index pages, which is pages which show sets of business objects. So Outreach is also like a sales platform. So here you can see a list of opportunities at the bottom of the screenshot. Each right line is an opportunity. You can filter them by clicking in the UI or by writing in our language, which supports some operators, etc. You can sort them. You can aggregate them. Like on the top line is an aggregation of all the search results, not just those that are shown on the screen, but all of them, even if there are millions of them, based on some attribute. And the attributes are not only coming from the business object. So not all the columns are from the opportunity object, but some are from related objects in the database. So some are themselves aggregations, like number of, I don't know, you can sort by number of emails sent, or by the time that the next email should be sent, by the number of, I don't know, contacts, etc. And even before And then this needs a low latency, so that users, if they create a new prospect or a new user or send an email, they see it as soon as possible here. So we have in most regions we have average latency around half a second from the time the data is changed to the time we send it to our indexing service, which is Elasticsearch. I'll talk about it. And generally, like 95th percentile, we try to be under 2 seconds. And even before the decomposition, it was too difficult to do this on top of a SQL database on MySQL. It was too slow because you need to join a lot of data to produce the results. So even before I joined, this started to be powered by Elasticsearch, which is a specialized database which can do some things it cannot do, like many things it cannot do. But it can do one thing very fast, and which is searching, including using some regular expressions or like full text searching. But you need to put all these like related pieces of data from all the different services that you gather in one document. Like each row, each opportunity is one document, and it contains the data about the opportunity, but it also contains data from related tables, even from managed by different teams. So you need to put like all this together, and then searching is quite fast. And also to be better at searching, we have some priority processing. So if a user creates a new object, we first try to index that object, and only then we index the related objects, related documents that need to be updated. And we are working on some better fairness so that one of our customers cannot influence other customers because of loading the database, for example. So this is how it looks in the database. So for example, for the document A12 from the table A, which is a fictional table, it has some attributes like title, CEO, you can see in the result document on the bottom right. But it also has links to other tables, maybe some foreign keys, some references go from the other direction. And not everything is just concatenating of the results. Sometimes you do some aggregation, like count of different objects C, from table C linked here, etc. So the core of the search functionality is this denormalization engine, which makes these documents to send to Elasticsearch, and a pipeline to react to changes of various business objects and react by updating these documents. So that was like probably not so brief introduction of the search team. And now to the agenda of the talk. When I was preparing it, it struck me that the structure is actually quite similar to how the Greek plays were structured. So they were usually split into 5 parts. So I split the talk into 5 parts. First, exposition, where you present all the characters and the environment. So I'll talk about the decomposition. Then there is a complication. Something happens. So in our case, it was a change in environment. I'll talk about it, which resulted in a change of plans of the decomp. There is a climax, which is like a bigger result of the change. Then resolution, we needed to adapt. So what we did, and denouement is like a word for that. The first time I heard it, but it's a word for the conclusion of everything. If it's a tragedy, it usually ends with everybody dead or committing suicide. But this will be not the case. Like nobody was harmed, so this will hopefully have a happy ending. So let's start with the exposition. So we had a monolith with using Ruby on Rails, and it started when Outreach was started, basically, and it was called Flagship. And there were some problems with it. I think we all have like very similar experience. So scalability, like when we projected the growth of customers and the usage, we weren't sure that the system would be able to scale into the future. There were stability issues that, for example, when one team modified something, it often could influence other teams because it was a shared code base, shared storage, so performance issues and bugs could affect everybody else. Real performance issues. For example, a lot of actions were scheduled automatically after some time passed after some event, and the result action was often sending an email. And sending an email has often restrictions that you cannot send outside of business hours of the recipient. So you need to calculate what is the time zone for the recipient, when you can send it. And it turns out a lot of actions were meant to be sent on the weekend or finished on the weekend. But then what can you do? Like, weekend is not a work day, so you need to push it to Monday. So on US Monday mornings, like 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., of various time zones, we had big spikes, and like the database was really going to dangerous levels of usage. The app slowed down, and we were actually able to solve this within the monolith by spreading the email sending a bit more, so that not everything needs to be sent at 8 sharp. But still, like there were concerns about the performance. Also, feature velocity and developer experience, because people in general were not familiar with Ruby on Rails. And Ruby on Rails is in some way a very powerful language, but it's very prone to developing custom sub-languages around it, where you can do crazy stuff, which does, one line does a lot of things. But if somebody else goes there, they are not aware of this, and they are surprised, and it results in bugs and stuff. And also, Ruby is not very cost effective. It consumes a lot of memory. It uses a lot of CPU. We are running on AWS, Amazon Web Services, so we had to pay for it. So it was decided, hey, let's get rid of the monolith. And from the search point of view, which is the team I'm working on, search was originally inside Flagship, and both generating the documents, so gathering all the objects and putting it together as a JSON to send to Elasticsearch, and detecting upon changes, detecting what needs to be recomputed, reindexed. That was in Flagship. And even before I joined, a new microservice was created that orchestrated things. The actual creating of the documents was still in the monolith, but the like end of the pipe receiving the notifications and orchestrating everything was a new Go microservice. It got the notification, it went to the monolith to ask the set of the documents to index. It put it into the queue, immediately processed the priority ones, and then the rest went through the queue. It read the queue and went again back to the monolith to ask for the document. The monolith would go to its storage, and then the orchestration service, the Go microservice, would send this to Elasticsearch. So the new part is the blue arrow and the search box. And this is what the plan for outreach decomposition was, to put pieces out from the monolith into separate Go microservices and have a real-time data ingestion service, CDC event service, to replicate the database, the MySQL database, into Postgres databases over Kafka, over a Kafka queue, which is something like a pub sub or like a queuing system. And each team would create a protobuf to describe the objects, then create a serialization part, and the deserialization part would be mostly automatic. And search was needed because search was kind of going across the domains, joining different databases. And because we were kind of needed everywhere, then we would ingest also the data relevant for searching. We would ingest from the respective Postgres databases into our own Postgres database, and then we would use it to generate the documents, and everything would be nice and simple. But a third part in in a plays a complication. So 2022 happened. What's so important about 2022? That's the time when COVID restriction faded and supply chain issues happened. So we had there was inflation in most parts of the world. There were supply problems. Companies cut down on sales, so less growth than expected, less hiring for outreach than expected. We needed to prioritize new features because during the decomposition phase, like most of the engineering, like vast percentage of the engineering type was put into decomp. And it was there were also technical problems. There were delays, like things that were planned to be fast, took time. We also had problems with like invalid data and stuff. And if you have a monolith, it's like a drug. It encourages bad behavior. It encourages coupling. It's so easy to like get something else from some other team's domain and use it, or hook somewhere to be notified when something changes. But it's easy to do, but hard to undo. You get the replication delays if you replicate the data over Kafka. You have distributed transactions problems when before you could start a transaction, do your stuff, all the hooks from other teams would execute, and then you would commit everything, and it would be either rolled back or committed, and no issues. So this caused the decomp to go slower, and then the next part of the climax happens, and that's the change of the plan. The leadership decides it's too costly, we need to develop features. So much fewer resources were allocated to the decomp, and there was a much more focus to push for feature development. So some teams actually finished the decomposition. Most of the teams that didn't spend so much time in the opium-laden part of the monolith, which encouraged them bad behavior. So it was like easier to escape. And also, while doing the decomp, a lot of foundations was put to build new microservices on. So, for example, it became quite easy to spin up a new microservice which was immediately deployable to AWS, to our Kubernetes cluster on AWS, with monitoring, logging, alerting, tracing. You had a HTTP server, gRPC server, integration with various systems like HPA, which is scaling pods up and down. And this was kind of also a question in the previous presentation, how to modify the code of many microservices if they have some common code. So we went away, which I'm not sure it was the best one, but it kind of worked with like a lot of generated code. So the base of the application is generated with some parts that you can fill in. It has pluses, it has minuses. Before, it was more like my previous experience was more that it was a library that you used, and if there was something that you really needed to be changed, you would do a large-scale change when like automatically create a change across repositories, which also somebody mentioned here. So that's an alternative approach. But yeah, but this like new foundation in general worked, and now like in 2 hours you can get a new microservice running. And it also has another thing, it has storage automatically. You can declare how many shards you want, and what data sources you want to ingest. It automatically sets up ingestion from like other teams' data that you are interested in. So there is the foundation, but also like same as in the previous presentation, the monolith still remains. There are some parts removed, but it looks like it's going to be with us indefinitely. But now it's lighter, and it's not so critical, and not so. The performance is not so bad because some parts have been moved out. parts that took a lot of effort. But resolution, like we had to react. Serge was counting on the nice world where we could ingest everything to our local pond, and then we could swim in our pond and be happy. But now not all data is in one place. We have to look at the different places. We need to join the data, and also the notification of changes suddenly becomes harder because we need to react on on changes in MySQL, on changes in Postgres. So we have a SQL builder engine which takes the search schema. The search schema represents a declaration how you want to create these documents to send to Elastic. And based on this, we create SQL queries. And before we could join across tables, the arrows that I showed you, which are on this slide. But now we have to do it manually. We have to load the data from one service, load data from another service, join them in memory, and also handle SQL client pools to maintain the connections, and it gets a bit more complicated. So this is the original plan. And now, like one Go microservice is gone, and instead it remains in Flagship. So we need to get the data from Flagship, and this slide is slightly incorrect because it shows that we are investing it into our Postgres, which we can also do for some. But some of them, there should be an arrow from Search directly to the MySQL database because we are reading it directly from the monolith. So this is how it looks like now. Now, like you can see different colors can represent different systems that you need to join across. And how it ended. So now we have like everything migrated to the new system. Not everything is used from the new system, but we expect it to be in a matter of weeks. And the new system is now independent of the monolith. It can use the monolith, but it doesn't have to. It can read data either from the monolith or from a new service. So if somebody else decides to take part of the monolith and get it out, in Search, they will just need to rename the table or change the table definition, and suddenly it will read from the new table. And since all the search schemas are declarative, it's like easy to analyze it by the system to find out if something changes, what needs to be recomputed, and do it from whatever storage it has. And that's it. So thank you. And now if you have questions, like, feel free to ask.
Thank you very much, Alexander. Let's take a seat. Let's rest our feet. So, I don't see anything on Slido yet, but I believe there will arrive some question. So maybe one more question from me, similar I asked Martin. What was it for you, the most difficult or complex or crazy stuff?
So I think it was, I think it was the beginning when we needed to figure out like how to adapt to this new world. Then actually, like in the slides, it looked the part where we went back from like the decom to partial decom. Actually, that was not that difficult. I made it sound difficult, but it was not that bad. Like the first, like staring at the blank paper was the worst. Yeah.
Thank you. Question from Lukáš. Do you still keep moving things out of the monolith?
Yes, it's on the teams. I would say not much. Some things are, but mostly it's like if somebody wants to develop a new feature that doesn't have dependencies on the rest of the systems, which we had a couple of big things recently. So they just start fresh from as a microservice. So we are able to support it, but yeah, I would say now like moving things is very slow from the monolith. Yeah.
Thank you. Question from Mirka. Would you prefer breaking completely Or is the hybrid solution okay and future-proof?
It's yeah, it's difficult. Like it was always difficult to find out how far we are because we went to a place where like even the core system could serve the from the microservices the read stuff, but problem was switching the right path, and it looked like it's always like you can touch the end, and it was always like getting further and further, or like if you climb a mountain and the top keeps getting higher. So I think it's kind of a necessity. It was not. It's not like the probably the best call, but it's not maybe what we like the most, but what works.
Thank you. Understood. Sorry, my phone. Cool. Question from Michal. Is Go a language you would recommend today?
So I was working up for a long time with C++, and I was really missing some things in Go, especially like const references, stuff that where you could pass something somewhere and be sure that it won't get modified. In Go, it's these things are not there, or the generics they only arrived quite a bit later, and it's you feel constrained. But I think I got used to it, and now I actually enjoy the simplicity, and like it's easy to read, easy to write. Yeah, so I got used to it.
Okay, okay. Question from Mert. If you were there from the beginning, what would you have changed in the way the ROR application is written that would have made this change easier? Are any of these difficulties avoidable with planning?
So what is ROR? Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah, I think it was very ambitious to have this system like running the online real-time synchronization of the data sources. I think that was really like we kind of bit a too big piece, I think. So I would do basically what Martin said in the first presentation: do service decom first with the data, and then move data. Let's say on the weekend, we can say that there will be an outage and we move the data there. Yeah.
I see. Thank you. Question from Venkat. What is the general experience using Kafka? Is the microservices running in Kubernetes as containers? What is the experience from development perspective?
Yeah, so Kafka is generally okay. Is generally good. It's reliable, high throughput. It has some latency. You need to tune it. Do not wait for more messages to push new messages. So that's fine. And with the second was about pushing Go microservices as pods in Kubernetes. I think that works well. We have there's always some issues on the peak hour when you have like not enough nodes, so that scheduling maybe takes a while, and some node gets evicted, so your services gets killed and restarted somewhere else. But in general, I think this part works pretty well.
Thank you. Any question from the audience or something on the slide? Okay, let me wrap up with the same question as I gave to Martin. What would be your biggest highlight or piece of advice or recommendation those people should take from this meetup?
That's like it's always possible to decomp a part of the monolith. Also, there will be probably some ugly part hidden, but if you hide it somewhere, it's probably won't be causing too many problems.
Thank you very much, Alexander. So before our last talk from Michal from Czech TV, we're going to have a little break. So guys, 10 minutes, go munch on those goodies, take some beer, wine, go for it.
and so many old things there. And from the other side, we have something like heritage, maybe, because we have so big amount of old videos and stuff like that. And yeah, maybe for someone is, I think for many people, it's a little bit like love brand, and it's maybe something like heart affair that began with watching Večerníček. We don't know, it's bedtime program for children, and everybody knows it. And yeah, it's you grow on that, and we have more than 20 years of development, and so it's look like that. Okay. Well, so what is modern architecture? Yeah, I think nothing like that exists, because you are working actually now on something, and it will be after 2 years legacy, and you have to deal with it. And actually, it's something that it's still here, and it's only ways to just improve suboptimal things and so on. And you repeat and you repeat, and you it's a little bit scary, because it's everybody who working with IT. These new libraries are outside. Every CV are announced, and we have to something make security updates, and it's every time you can see it. And maybe sometimes it's good that you don't have a overview, you don't monitor, but when you monitor, you start to figure out that you have so many problems, you deal it everywhere. And when you have so many projects, it's overwhelming, I think. Okay, I would like just share a little overview how we change for last 7 years. Because for before around 17, it was like really small team. We have just external DC, external organization which manage everything. And yeah, now we have inside to internal data centers, and we introduce virtualization, and it's, yeah, I think you know everything. And there was the big shift, because we have just really old MySQL here, and it's still working, thanks to God. But of course, there were the problems with applications, with the storage, and for 20 years, there's so many things. So we introduce new technologies and try to like model the composition, try to make some domains, and to cut the monolith, we had to separate things. And yeah, I have some pictures. We try to make domain for administration. We change this is for reader. This is like really complex thing. And we introduce new thing. They can help us to manage everything. One is the software catalog. Another is we don't use before Agro CD. It's help us with the deployment stuff. And of course, this is the Prisma. Everybody hates it, but it really works, because every time, I don't know, 40 days, we have the report. Where is the critical issues? And yeah, I really recommend it. Monitor and make reports. It's maybe very working thing that you have the insights in the structure. We don't have it, of course, before. So therefore, I say it. And I think it's really good for everyone. And yeah, this is just a little overview. This is one of the cluster. We use Kubernetes. We have some resources. It can be, of course, bigger, but we have more discussed clusters. And yeah, it's not so big, but can be. And first thing, yeah, legacy systems. Everybody knows it. Everybody has it somewhere. And yeah, we call it old hell. And it's hell. And yeah, so I just want to share how it looks like now. And it's a little bit like for us. And it's happened. and you be prepared for that because it's happening. You make a new one, and don't be scary. It's normal, and yeah, you will see. It's like this. Everybody knows it. Maybe I wrote it before, and it's very hard to touch it because it works. And yeah, managers don't like to change things when they works because that spends money, and you have the really good reason to change it. And I heard from one manager that they said, "Oh, let's it crash it," and they will want to change it. And it is works, but it's a very hard one. Don't do it. And yeah, the last one is legacy code will be yours. So there's like some examples in what we had, and yes, some of them there we had two. It's old structure, old PHP, or classic hell. Oh, I have separate. Sorry, so you don't know to see. Okay, so this is like old structure. Everything was and from some part is connected. It was one of the first effort to map what is going on there, because from the 20 years you are lucky when you have maybe 3 or some developers who knows of some part of it. I think nobody knows how it was worked before. Now it's different. So I just want to share how it looks before. And we have, of course, so many administration. This is we call it POPs 1 and 3, 4, and old websites. And this is the funny one. This is the oldest working quiz SMS, and it's working for 20 years. So you can look on it. And yeah, we have, of course, this was the start. We have the old CMS on the Drupal, and that was one of the starts. We had to change it because there were so many things, and we was not able to upgrade. And yeah, we tried to get to another organization just to update this, and yeah, they tried, but it not works. So that's it. And this is a really nice one. This is one last effort to map every system what we have on the legacy, and it's more than 1,500 rows of some system what something do, and we don't know. Maybe somebody knows, and then we decide to make some owners and to analyze it. And yeah, now we have the manager for it because it's so huge and so much effort to do it. And it's the first great attempt, like to just everything check and everything somebody had to own. Because when somebody don't owns, nobody wants to care about it, and this is the way to hell. Yeah, and this is just the last of the section. This I'll try to write some points what I see from 7 years what's happened. And yeah, when you have no plan, you have to have some analysis what to do, and because it's not just about the technical stuff. I think this is the last thing, because it's about the decision making. Somebody had to find a way how to separate more parts, and you have to communicate, and it's not so easy. And yeah, and this was our headend on the first time. And yeah, one of the colleague connect this like that. He's obviously not now in our organization, but I think this demonstrates that effort. If you start with something like that, maybe somebody knows of part how it works, but this is another picture from our data center. oh, and yeah, this is the end. And I think it's about like that. We want to change something very messy to something a little bit organized. Okay. This is part, just a little bit overview about numbers from news websites, just to know how big we have page views and traffic. And this is from sport. And yeah, this is the peak. And news websites and sport websites are similar. They have the peaks, and they have like the normal traffic. They are not so much interesting. But when something happens, somebody with the flutes or with some sport event, so the traffic peaks out, and it's really funny to see how hardware deal with this. And we introduced some caching on Google because we had to do it. So this is the mix from the hockey that was here. And yeah, there was a 3.13 terabytes, and we have something like 1.7 from the next. So it's not so small. And there's the typical profile. You have just small something, and there's the peak. Some errand happen. And we have like comparison a little bit about the hockey. So we can see that there's growing amount of users, and for us it's so nice. From one side, from hardware, it's a little bit worse. Yeah, and this is from news websites. There's just page views, and you can see the similar pattern. We have just the peaks and just the normal traffic. And last thing was elections, regional, and yeah, there are some numbers, but yeah, shit happens, and sometimes we have problem with APIs, and because funny thing, the KSU had to deliver data on API, but they first sent into the email. It was like last thing when the API wasn't work, and yeah, there was a little bit problem for us. But this is the last thing from news. It's not so easy to change something sometimes, and yeah, this is answer for the what is the hard. Because Zip is like new platform from websites, news websites, and sport websites. We work on integration of the sport on this platform, but the race was a little bit complicated because there was like first attempt, and yeah, it was just replace the old administration, and maybe we made some right little design, and yeah, what next? We did it, but it was not so easy because there was not great information how to do it. And we firstly introduced Kubernetes. It was around 7 years before. And yeah, we have very great success for sport. And it was the Kubernetes starts to be like our standard for new application. Second attempt was really different because there was new generation of managers, and they try make it different. And this is really, I don't want to say the funny, but it's hard thing that when the managers change, they sometimes change everything, and you have to deal with it. And there is a lack of consistency, and sometimes there are a little bit ego, and it's everything have the direct influence on how you deal with your legacy. So this second attempt was like we made so many AKIs, what they what editors want, but it was so insane, so we had to reduce it, and we introduced new technology, and there was first attempt for K-Cloak, and yeah, every this attempt get us some new technology, what we try to adapt, and yeah, it's happened and it works. And third attempt for was totally different shift, because second attempt for do it for the sport, but no, we changed the way. We had to do it for the news websites, so it was for developer a little bit confusing, because they had to maybe something to rewrite. And why I say, because I think the technology things are a little bit the last mile, because when you want to change something, you really have to know what is it and have the plan and try to have the plan for a long way. And it was sometimes it's not so easy, because it's this thing. Yeah, and this is overview about our approach, how to deal with the legacy system. We start with the domain model to separate parts. And yeah, from view of news websites, it was like make some content, media, election, weather, and so on. And we write it to microservice and make some data separation. And from front-end view, we create some components for listing things. And another thing that we had to deal with the product separation, because we have one CMS and we want to have more and more like websites on that. So we decide to separate on separate deployments, separate databases, and have really good separation and own GraphQL for each product. And yeah, we used RabbitMQ, but we try to have Solid, because we are not event-driven and we are not streaming platform, but from some type of embargo and expansion, it's really good. And yeah, there is the tech stuff stack. I think it's a really common thing, and but tech stuff is one of the part, and this is like the second big part is like organization thing. So we have a Redmine, we switch to Jira, we have, and it's a so scary thing for me. It was another three generation of Scrum Masters and move things around. And we have, of course, so many trade-offs, because trade-offs for me depends on actual stuff, actual people how they know the technology, and if they are not scary about it. And we have little not typical thing, and we have, because we try to we separate microservices and make it REST API, and yeah, and after that we decide, or we want to use GraphQL, so we use GraphQL on the top, because we don't know if we are able to manage it in production. So there is a factor of scariness about if you want to implement, or if you are ready to make it in production, and that's happened. And there was separation of backend and frontend, which I don't recommend, because there is sometimes the big role, and you need to people communicate. And when they don't communicate, they separate the path, and it's different, and not every time the microservices from the backend are connected with the front end. And what we do for example, now is well with some hybrid logic that GraphQL serves some data, but some logic is on the currents, and when you want to integrate another currents, because they sometimes don't know there is the logic, and when is something like UI action, we have to deploy it, and this logic stays here. It's prevent for another integration, so avoid it. So it's a little bit trade-offs, and yeah, I like this one. It's empty. So, and that will be hard part for me a little bit. No, not hard part. This is good. This is just how the administration looks like. This is the first generation. This is the second generation. It's partly used, but still working on some old legacy stuff. And this is the new one separated on the Kubernetes. And yeah, this is some few lessons learned what I want to share. First one is don't separate backend and frontend. You need to communicate, and so on. For us was critical long strategy because it was not work every time. And this, we know this is the second part from this geek, and it's about what we have. It's another department about video and a little bit streaming and player and so on. So there is so many data. It's more complicated, and this is like first thing, because as I said before, in Czech Television we have so many heritage, and it's mean that we have so many titles in archives, and it's really insane amount. And yeah, this is like big opportunity to share it, and I think everybody about this knows, and yeah, we work on that to make it possible. Video platform have some parts. We separated to vysílání, to the parts, edu, art, and spatials. So this means that there is so many things here, and you have to deal with this. And it means that first thing is some specials from Czech Television, and you have to forget standards, protocols, because we have old one, we have codecs, they're not so common, and there are so many special things that you have to deal with this. Therefore, it's not so easy to create the legacy, and the workflow and dynamics are really not rigid, so you have to be prepared for some changing, some approach that are not so straightforward. You have to deal with this, and for us it's really hard to do it. And there is like we deal with some legal and public aspects, and of course licensing, because it's one of the part of the work there. This is the overview about the domain composition, how we separate the parts of the legacy systems, and we create catalog, video catalog. There is it has to be like first master data storage, and we have the live parts, there's everything with live things, and media processing, front ends, and media delivery. So this is like separation, and from this everything is decided and made. We create a new metadata logical model, which is which separates things, and like it's really very good for one of the first attempt to just map what's happening behind the curtain, and it's really big one. And yeah, one of the good option is to make SQL models, because it's better for that. And yeah, we have Porovis, which is like ERP for us, and it's like source of so many data and of course the problems. And there was some big effort to make better quality lists. And yeah, it's step by step it's happening, and it's really customized for us. So we factored and try to find new better solution. And yeah, this is the overview what it's mean Peklo for video platform, and it's all MySQL, of course. We like it. And all front ends, it's all integration or APIs. There's XML, JSON, everything what you can imagine. And we want to change it because it's really frustrating, but it's so connected and it's really hard to do it. So we had to separate what I said before and try to make it with small pieces. And this is how it looks. There was so many code uploaded on the FTP. We have not some CI/CD. There was really hard to make some changes. There was PHP everywhere, old one, and funny things. We have one of the nice database of guest receipts somewhere in the database. Yeah, this is the heritage. Yeah, this is the basic how it can look like. Okay, so what we can do with in this Inferno, and of course the way was not so easy too. There was more attempt too, and first one was really big analytical, but it was not so deep. So there was second one which tried to much more better demand separation, and yeah, they had to make some effort more and than they before. So I think this one of thing from that is that do it per partes and do it deep because you need it. So, and yeah, everybody wants to make things simple. So just some data storage primarily, something administration, and go on the internet. But the reality looks like this. And when we it really works, you are mess up and you just hallucinate how you change it. So you have to go really deep one. And this is some principles what in video platform they use, and it's a little bit similar technology. We try to have some technology same, and it's happen. Sometimes it's harder, but yeah, use because it's really good from DevOps sides because they don't want to manage it so many technologies, and it's really harder to have so many technologies different. Yeah, REST API, RabbitMQ, and on the top is GraphQL, which serves like just mine gateway for everything. And yeah, it's a really nice thing. We finally have identity provider, its own, and now we are moving it to Kcloak, so it will be better, just the better. And yeah, this is the maybe some soft things, and you have to separate the technical parts to teams, and sometimes it's really challenging when, for example, team are changing or they are separated to two teams, but from two teams people know the same system, and it's hard to deal with how to delegate the work, because some part know somebody from one team, another part from another team, and it's happened. Yeah, and this is about separation, and yeah, we are a little bit parallel with e-commerce, and of course everybody have some catalog, and we are not different. We had to deal with the transport and processing, and this is another domain. We have front ends, yeah, and there is some trade-offs too. Because some components, what I told before, it can be shared between teams. It's not idle, but yeah, you have to manage it. And some are a little bit in the middle, and that's probably a little bit too. Okay, so this just some numbers, how it looks like. It's not so massive, but we have few curve backend service. I think its approach is same, not to have so much, because yeah, when you have so many backends, you have so many complexity, and yeah, we don't deal with 100 microservices working together. We try to keep not so big, and there is special administration for front ends, and it's called Move. Okay, we are from Czech Television, and yeah, front ends in VCI. I'm not sure if I can talk really how is it, but there are colleagues, they know much more about this, and they work a little bit same. They use GraphQL, and we use it for displaying necessary data. We have this is just history of how EVCI was look like before and now. So yeah, it's I think it's same. It's old stuff changing to new design, but this is the design. But the question is if the backend is changing so quickly like the design, and I think that it's not so it's not happened so often, because change design is like maybe easier, but the connection of the system it grows, and it's slower than changing the design. Yeah, and this is just overview about how what was the IRL for that. This is the same. There is like really old code base, and so many work was on that, and we expect that there will be really high quality, of course, that wasn't, and there was stuff like we have so many IDs, but nothing is primary, or just the one. Yeah, you have to deal with it, and it's same problem out like with the generation of the developers, the relation of the system, and it's really huge amount to consolidate and they take it together. And yeah, what's happening is now VOD platform, it's prepared for deployment. And this was just overview about the composition strategy. So first of all, it's same. We had to know what we have underneath and what we want to change it, and we had to separate domains, get data to another part, and this approach is not same with Juice platform. There is like switchboard between the old and one. It is, I think, is similar what we see before here, and yeah, create a new administration for new data and start mastering data from new storage, and after that, reconnect GraphQL to new data. This little bit example about what it looks part of that. There's some managers, migration managers, which try to get data from the old one, the PECLO, the PUB. Yeah, and sometimes it appears new problems when you deal with the data, and it's problem with consistency and race condition, for example, and this is the same one before. And finally, this is the last one. You have the AI image here, and we actually use AI, want to use it, but actually now we don't have so many resources for that, and try to build a know-how. And therefore, we have little quiz competition for you, and it's for the Budišťák, who will try to we first say the number of AI servers that we have. They won this golden Budišťák. No. You can choose from 0 to million. How many AI servers we have now? What? No. No. It's close. Yes. So you are the winner. Oh. And that's all from me. And I apologize for that. That video platform was not so in deep, but I hope that question will be.
Vetřelní check maybe. Let's chill and answer some questions. Question from is this all developed Czech Television employees? How many of them are there?
My code, yes. We are like 3 team in the news department, and there are 4 or 5 teams in.
Yeah, maybe this is the question for me. Yeah, it's mostly internal development. From the beginning, we have people in team which wrote the code 20 years before, some of them. And now we have around 60 developers internal, because in our organization it's much simpler to live with internal development than in external companies, because as maybe you don't know, we have to go to public tenders, and it's very hard to find some reliable partners for longer terms. So it's much easier to do everything in house. So around 60 people in development. But if you ask about the whole television, it's much, much more.
Question from Lukáš. As a public interest company, do you have some special restrictions in software development, or some licenses might be more loose?
I think we are not so special. We have just licenses for video content, and we have to deal with this. And there are like new big effort with cyber security. We have to deal with this. And with normal development, I think there's nothing special.
Sometimes we are trying to ask for public licenses, for some cheaper licenses, but it's usually the best work. Some academic licenses, let's say, but last time we tried to get cheaper Figma, but we are unsuccessful. So.
Thank you. Question from what exactly do you use Backstage for? Which part do you find the most helpful?
For us, was big switch just for API definition, because we use Swagger Hub, and it was like paid, and we tried to find another solution. So first, this is like first stage, and we use it for the shared API definition.
Sorry, Honza.
For me, I think it's really helpful that also product managers can use this tool to get some overview about the APIs, which is really important for their products. And now it's quite easy. And I saw one meeting when the PO was presenting some APIs and data directly on the meeting from the Backstage from this tool. And it's really nice when POs can understand the data behind.
Yeah, I think that another thing is they help us with define the dependencies and have the good overview about the dependencies.
Thank you.
Because Backstage is much more bigger, and they are, I think, on the start. And that's, we had to count it.
Thank you. Question from Michal. Do you have anything published as open source?
No, I don't know about this. I would really like to have, but I think it's for a few years, yeah, we discussed it, but we decided it's so much effort for us to have a public to maintain this, and somebody have the experience with public stuff and contributing, and we decided it's a little bit out of scope. But I really think that it had to do this. It's because it's public, and yeah, but it's weird to decide, and it's a very big effort to manage.
I see. Maybe in the future.
Yeah.
Recipes.
Okay.
Question from Jirka. What did you mean exactly by don't separate backend and frontend? Keep the code together, as in use templating system instead of API calls?
No.
The developers together in the same room?
Yeah, it was like organization, not about the code, about the people, and they had to communicate these together, and not just communicate through the API, because it's so slowing. Yeah.
Thank you. Question from Petr. Why MySQL? Why PostgreSQL?
That's a nice question, and actually we have Postgres. We have all MySQL, because I think it's like a very historical reason, because everything works on the MySQL, and there was not experience with Postgres. And what I don't mention, we introduced a new team, a Python team, which one plan to use for AI things, but now they're helping with normal APIs, and they are used to use Postgres, and we introduced this database to our stack, And yeah, it's one from side is a little bit challenging because there's another thing, and you have to, from DevOps side, you have to manage it. And before we don't have DevOps, we can do it. So now we have, and yeah, we use it for some stuff like redirects and some APIs.
Thank you. Question from Lukáš. All of these legacy systems, Provis, PUB, are still being developed and maintained, or are you kind of stuck with it and you need to patch it yourself?
Yeah, what I can say about the Provis, there was like, we have changes for them and they make it. So it's still in evolution. And yeah, it's a little bit crazy, but you have to keep on the track what you need. And some changes was from our side to make a much more better integration and openness to door to get over that. And it was something about cleaning data, and so we need it.
Thank you. Question from Jakub. What is the big win you are the most proud of when dealing with all the legacy?
Big win. I think you can from this year see the really big effort to transformation, and yeah, every year is better and better. And it was horrible to see in the start, and now we use normal technology and that we advance to do what they to do, make it things better. And yeah, it's for me it's like big satisfaction because you see the big progress. And yeah, sometimes it's easy when you have the big legacy. Well, so it's easy to change something, and sometimes a really big pain, and you are a really big scare from that.
Thank you for sharing. Would you like to follow up that with what would be your biggest piece of advice or highlights when teams are trying to cut down the monoliths? Something this audience should take with them.
I think this can be a one-man show. You have to share the problems, you have to analyze together and talk about this, because you find a solution. It's like, I think it's not so hard, but you have to be able to do it together. And sometimes what I saw, there was a problem, and it was so slow, everything, and you say why, and yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Before we wrap up, do we still have Alexander and Martin, our this evening speakers? Can you come here, guys? So last round of applause for all of you. Thank you very much for sharing and giving us insights. Thank you. Martin, thank you. Michal, thank you very much. Also, round of applause for our organizer, Lukáš, Markéta, all the volunteers, all of you for coming. Before I release you to go drink and eat, is there someone who hasn't been here and would like to see an office tour and maybe get some behind the scenes information? Raise your hand if that's the case. Okay, we gather in the kitchen and we can start in a few minutes. And I mean, that's it, guys. Thank you very much for this evening, and now go and enjoy.
Want to get out.